We're back live from YCS Prague, where we're now in the top 16 between a former runner-up of the German National Championship, Pitai Meyer, on the one-hand side with...
He is running Qliphort.
Yes, and...
we are happy to see a Qliphort that is definitely making it through the slog of Nekroz. And
speaking of runner-ups, he's going up against Fabio Polito. He is the runner-up of the last YCS in Milan, where he only lost in the finals. So let's take you to the table right away. Let's not waste any time and take a look at these guys, because they were so eager to start playing, which is understandable when you made it to the top 16 of such a prestigious event. They immediately went ahead and started the game. So as you can see, Pitai Meyer was allowed to go first.
Just as we go over there.
And
there we are.
He's got the very typical start of the Nekroz deck. Didn't we just say that Pitai Meyer is running Clifford? Yes, I think that
I believe that they are on the wrong side of the table, which isn't an issue. We'll just change that now.
Yeah.
So it's actually Fabio Polito.
All right, so for this game, you just have to imagine that the names of the players would be swapped around. So this is Fabio Polito, who is starting with Senchu of the 1,000 Hands on the field, and the Nekroz of Unicorn.
Then he just went and got the Kaleidoscope, put the Herald into the graveyard, special summoned the Unicorn. I believe that the Claw Solus was discarded there to be able to get the Kaleidoscope. Bryonic is now in hand, and he's just dropped the Bryonic.
Right. So he's going through one of the two good loops in the first.
Yep. Now he has the possibility. Can't quite see his hand there. I believe they're just swapping it all around now.
Yeah, that's a Valkyrus in hand. There we go. This is the hand of Fabio Polito, with a Nekroz of Unicorn in hand still. A Mystical Space Typhoon, Psy Blocker, one of the cards that he's running in the main deck that
yes.
everybody's running.
It's actually very, very interesting. A lot of players were saying that it was a side deck card, and a lot of players come up to you and say, "I'm running an interesting deck," and then you go, "What deck are you playing?" And then they'll tell you, "Oh, I'm running Nekroz, but I've got a Psy Blocker in my main deck." That's one of the main things. It's taking a side deck card, putting it into the main deck.
Yeah,
makes the deck just a little bit more interesting.
And also this loop that Fabio Polito is going for is going to end, most of the times at least, with no field.
Yes.
And
I mean, what he's currently actually doing, he could get his Ginlock off at this point. I believe he's going for a Lava Val Chain. He's discarded a Unicorn there, which has allowed him to get...
return something from
the grave to the hand.
Yes.
So,
and
no, he's going for the Daigusto. Try and get some more cards off.
Yeah, but that's not the typical opening, because normally you would not want to have a monster remaining on the field when you're passing play. And maybe there is a good chance that he's actually aware that his opponent, Pitai Meyer, is not playing Nekroz.
Yeah, it's very possible that he saw him out on the tables. Now, he actually just returned the Herald or Arclight back into his extra deck, using it. So, it's a good play. Sets him up for later Kaleidoscope plays.
Yeah, and he adds a face down spell trap card. That should be the Mystical Space Typhoon that we see in his hand here. And then for the first time, it's going to be up to Pitai Meyer. And we got his hand here, so here you go, guys. He starts with a Sacrifice and a Carrier.
Yep, and he's also got Summoner's Art, so interestingly, did not play the Summoner's Art to be able to go and get a Scout. Now he's being attacked.
There is the Summoner's Art.
He just used the Valkyrus to stop the attack, to stop his Daigusto Emerald being destroyed, so he's going to be able to use it again. Now, there's the Summoner's Art. That gives him a Scout. Scout can pay 800.
And search for yet another Qli card. So also, pretty good start, actually. That's the Recreate. Ooh, that's a card we mentioned a couple of times this weekend.
Yes, now we've not actually really seen it actually played whenever we've had it on stream. Now, it's a very powerful card. It's going to negate any of those Nekroz monsters that are coming out immediately, and then they will be banished when they leave the field.
And also, more importantly, I think we've never seen it being searched out. So Pitai Meyer definitely wants to make use of that card. In fact, he's so 100% certain of it that he searches for it when he has many, many options to search for with his scout. All right. So let's bring that card up for you guys again, in case you're not familiar with it. It's a trap card. It's a little bit like a skill drain. It negates the effects of monsters that were summoned to the field for the turn that which they were summoned, which helps you to boost the stats of all of those Qli monsters. Yep. And at the same time, a level 5 or higher is going to get banished when it leaves the field, which is very crippling for the Nekroz archetype.
Now, he does have a set Mystical Space Typhoon, so he will be able to get rid of it almost immediately, but skill drain, that field is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, also playing around like a master, the Trishula, of course, with no cards in hand.
Yeah, skill drain there, soul transition, so he's going to be negating their effects regardless.
Although we have to keep in mind that the sacrifice allows him to search, and if he would be searching and adding something to his hand, he would be up for a Trishula play.
Yep, but you've got to remember that the carrier there now can't be destroyed by battle.
Okay, so Fabio Polito needs to find a way, but we know for a fact that he's more than capable of that. When he went all the way to the finals back in Milan in December, where he lost to the eventual winner Daniele Stella, who was interestingly enough running Clifford, whereas Fabio back then was running Burning Abyss. Is the body language giving anything away here?
He's very unsure of maybe what's going to come off, but he's got a confident look on his face there.
Yeah, and Pitai Meyer, he has been in similar situations before. So both of these players should be capable of assessing what the best move is, despite the extra pressure of sitting in the feature match live on camera, followed by thousands of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players around the world. So there's a Nekroz of Valkyros on the field.
Now that has got a huge attack, 2,900. But as I said, the carrier there cannot be destroyed by battle. That's why we'll probably see the Mystical Space Typhoon happening. There is also a Nekroz of Valkyros in hand there and a Nekroz of Trishula.
Yes, these are the contents of the hand for Fabio Polito. And Pitai Meyer doesn't have a hand at this point in time. Right. As you guys can see on the Twitch chat, you broke the internet, or at least the Konami coverage page. The written coverage is not available for the time being, but we're working on a solution and going to be back with that as soon as possible. And you will know first, of course. But in the meantime, you can still watch the Twitch chat, of course, where we see a Mystical Space Typhoon taking out the skill drain inner chain, so the carrier doesn't go up to a higher attack. Would have been enough to stand its ground against the Valkyros.
Not necessarily a big issue there. Dagosto Emerald still activating. Sending that back and allowing him to draw a card. Interestingly, when that Valkyros came out, he didn't bother to even attempt a solemn warning there. I guess he's waiting for something a little bit more nasty before he decides to use it. Mystical Space Typhoon no longer being of use. Great loss. A scout has nothing to fear anymore.
Yeah, so Pitai Meyer, if he draws and now he's got a back row, an open back row card spot at least.
Distributing 2 to draw 2 there.
Yeah, Fabio Polito using the effect of Valkyros, and that will give him even more cards in hand with a preparation of rights.
Yep, so he is primed to be able to just go and get the Trishula out. He doesn't need to right now, but it's something that he really needs to think about here. He also has the Djinn Releaser of Rituals in hand.
Oh, that means that he could possibly go for 2 chin locks rather than just 1. Very often you see that card getting sent to the graveyard with a Lavalval chain and then used from there. But sometimes it's actually not that bad when you draw into it, because you can prevent your opponent from special summoning twice.
Now, with the field that we've got right here, and with the deck that he's playing against, this isn't necessarily a bad thing for Qliphort.
Yeah.
If Qliphort can negate the effects of their monsters, they're just normal summoning 2,800 attack monsters. That's one of the reasons why Valkyrus and the Decisive Armor is so good in this deck. 1 Decisive Armor is being ran here. It's just 1 Trishula and 1 Gungnir as well.
Very typical build of the Clifford deck, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, he always confuses me why. It'd be something that I'd really like to ask a player. Is just why they're only running 1 Trishula. As its effect to stop targets.
It's also quite relevant.
It's really quite good, especially with Snatch Steal being such a prevalent thing within the meta.
There's a preparation of rights for only 1 target. That's normally an indication that things are not exactly going the way of the Nekroz player. And he's missing the Senju of the Manchu of the 1,000 hands or 10,000 hands to first search for a ritual spell and then perform a ritual summon before activating their preparation.
Right.
Even though it's
does
not
actually have the second target there. He has a Kaleidoscope
Oh.
in the graveyard, which is what he sent the Arclight in on the first turn. Now, he does also then have Arclight back into his extra deck, which is what he used the Dagosto Emerald for.
So I stand corrected. He's got more value out of that card. And so many cards in hand. What's going to be your next move here?
And he has a lot of choices. I mean, what he really wants to do is, he could try and get a card straight into hand by getting rid of the sacrifice. So then his opponent's open for Trishula. But I believe he's just kind of thinking about what might be in the back row. So here we go. He can actually...
He plays the Psy blocker, so let's bring that card up for you.
He can basically now declare Scout. And then Scout will not be able to search for the next turn.
Yeah, until the end of the opponent's next turn, which is very important, because sometimes I've seen that where players have named cards that can only be played on the opponent's turn, and you're left wondering why do they do that. But yes, Psy blocker is that good. Even if it leaves the field, the opponent can still not use the effects of cards that have been named.
Here comes Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what he was naming for Psy blocker. It's not going to be Torrential Tribute, I think. And the second Herald of the Arclight, Nekroz of Unicorn combo for the Nekroz player.
Now, I believe I'm right in saying that as soon as the monster has hit the field, he's actually missed the opportunity to play a Solemn Warning. He has to play it in response to the ritual spell card that was summoning the ritual monster. Which a lot of people don't quite understand, that you can miss timing with Solemn Warning.
Yeah. So many back row cards for Pitai Meyer, who does have answers. I don't believe that Solemn Warning was called for Psy blocker.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's the issue. As we say, we don't really have sound. So the Herald of the Arclight has got a Bryonic.
So another of those long turns for the Nekroz player. It's the reason why I would be hesitant to play the deck, because it takes so much of your concentration to play that at the top of your game over the course of 2 days.
It is kind of interesting that the Recreate didn't come out. Recreate would have negated Psy blocker as it came out, and also would have sorted with Unicorn. Now, here we go. An Exi Summon is being performed. For rank 4, really thinking about this. How many cards has Fabio got in his hand there?
Those are 6 cards.
Now he's using Ragnar 0.
And that can destroy the carrier.
Yep, and he'll then allow him to draw a card. And this would be the point he'd probably want to Solemn Warning.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a good target for Solemn Warning. So Pitai Meyer just quickly checking again or asking the judge about the effect of Ragnar Zero. Here you have it on the right hand side. Can detach a material and target a face-up attack position monster. All of that is the case for the carrier, whose current attack is different from its original etiquette, which is also the case because of sacrifice.
And also, just to make sure that you're aware, that carrier is currently a level 4 monster, so its effect of negating anything that targets it that has a rank or level lower than itself is not in play here. Now, just putting on the chain to put Ragnar Zero back in the extra deck using carrier because it was tributed, and then sacrifice will activate, allowing him to add to hand.
That's a soul transition that Pitai Meyer put in his graveyard, isn't it?
Yes, Soul Transition tributes the carrier.
Yeah. We haven't had that on our app here, but that's not a big problem. This card allows you to tribute a monster, draw 2 cards. And the tribute, as you...
Soul Transition, Soul Transition tribute a monster, draw 2 cards.
And as you pointed out, the tribute is the important part, especially for Qli, because you get to activate some of the secondary effects of the Qli monsters.
Yes. Carrier in this case, although not really hurting Fabio as much as you'd expect, because he still does have a lot of abilities to be able to special summon monsters. Now, just checking the graveyard there, I believe he has 1 ritual spell card in there that he can remove to be able to go and get himself another one. And he has a Nekroz mirror currently in his hand. We should have a quick look there at Fabio's hand.
There we go.
See what he's got. He has a lot of options.
Yeah, as is often the case with the Nekroz players. And, well, but then again, he has to make the most of them. One wrong surge can already mean that he's lost the game. That's what many of the veterans told me. What makes Nekroz so challenging to play?
No, he's just going to pay the cost for Nekroz Mirror. He's used Shuret, and that's bought out Trishula.
And this time, Pitai Meyer couldn't really work around the restriction.
And there goes Recreate. Recreate has negated Trishula, and Trishula will
be banished when it leaves the play.
Yeah. Now, something that I'm wondering about, which is what they're just checking with the judge, is whether it already has to be face up on the field when that happens.
Yeah, and
when the monster's summoned, or if you can do it in response to a monster's summon.
Judges are checking it, but I think it just negates the effects on resolutions, just like skill drain.
Yeah.
If a monster is normal or flip summoned and the level 4 lower. Yeah.
I guess a chain to the summon.
Yeah.
Would do that.
Oh, well, in response to the summon. I mean, the summon is successful, but I would be extremely surprised if Pitai Meyer weren't aware of that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sitting here. So the judge upheld, well, not exactly the ruling, but what Pitai Meyer was saying, that the card does in fact negate Trishula.
Now, Pitai Meyer on extremely low health right now. It's got a pot of duality, a Vanity's Emptiness, and a Qliphort Disc. Disc, of course, will just be able to normal summon and be at 2,800. Now, Scout is using its effect.
So he's dropping even further.
Makes me wonder, what did Psyblocker say?
Yeah. That's an... I mean, it could have been the warning, really, because the warning is still sitting in the back row.
Yeah, that is true.
Other than that, very hard to tell. I mean, from the good choices, that would have been one of the good choices, I think.
Yes.
Okay. So now he's got the Monolith and the Scout, the two of the most important cards, really, for this deck. Monolith, such a strong support card. And Chris Bowen earlier told me, Bowes, told me that Scout is really the best card in Clifford right now, just after the Scout. So Pitai Meyer agrees with him. He's even running 3 copies, whereas Chris was only running 2, and he regretted that choice. He wanted to play 3 after the first day. Okay, so now another check how exactly the inner workings of Recreate, what they are like.
I'm not quite sure what the question is there.
Yeah.
I kind of hope that...
Well, there's always the chance that it's also a little bit a case of translation being a problem.
Yes. Now, it's if a level 4 lower monster is normal summoned, but not if it's special summoned. Which means that when they're pendulum summoned, they will all still just stay level 4 and on their normal attack.
Yeah, so it wouldn't negate a Unicorn, for example.
Now, there goes the monolith. Pendulum summon.
Yeah, now it's time to pendulum summon.
In 2 monsters, which is going to allow him to
Tribute summon.
tribute summon for Disc. Now, it's not a special summon monster, which means that Disc's effect will activate as well.
Getting rid of the Trishula, also allowing him to draw in the end phase thanks to the monolith.
And he's going to be able to special summon 2 cards, which will be destroyed at the end of the turn. That's
Yeah.
straight to the extra deck.
Excellent move for Pitai Meyer. Excellent position he's suddenly in. And as long as that Recreate is active, I think he's quite safe, in fact.
Yes, now we do have a Valkyrius in hand there, which I believe is going to see. Yeah, there we go. It's being discarded, and it's banishing there.
How much does Pitai Meyer mind that? Because I think he doesn't mind that too much. For him, it's at the moment just staying in the game, and with a Vanity's Emptiness in the back row.
Yep, he doesn't really care anymore.
Yeah, Vanity's Emptiness in the back row and the Recreate, he's got enough defense, really, to make sure that Fabio Polito cannot, well, finish him in 1 turn, I think.
Depends what this last card is, because even Brionic isn't going to help, because he can't special summon. None of his monsters are going to have effects. And he drew a Send You with 1,000 hands.
Yeah.
Again,
So
not helping.
Exactly. Fabio Polito has access to his entire suite of Nekroz monsters, or Nekroz cards, in fact, but I don't think that's going to help him as long as he's under the spell of Recreate and a possible Vanity's Emptiness.
No, he can. It's again. I think this is a translation issue. It's the fact that if it's a level 5 or higher, if it's special summoned,
Yeah.
it's negated. The reason why it says special summoned is because Qliphort like to tribute summon.
Yeah, and there are a number of conditions that have to be met for that card. And I can understand that it is confusing. And Fabio Polito picking up the card for the 3rd time now, making sure that he understood the effects
exactly
correctly.
what's happening.
So maybe he will need an Italian translation, which
we can provide him with.
yes, of course. This is one of the things that you mostly, or well, actually only see at the European events, where we have so many different languages. I've been told that YCS Sydney, part of the reason for the sensational success that this tournament was the fact that players were not just very polite with each other, but also that they all spoke English.
Yeah. Now, the way I can see this happening is he's going to banish to go and get a ritual spell card. It's going to... Vanity's Emptiness is going to hit the field. And then at that point, he'll either... In fact, he can't play the Senju. The Senju would just be negated.
Yes.
So he's going to attempt to go and get a ritual spell card, but even when he does that, he can just...
Yeah,
he
now
just
he
Vanity's
has
Emptiness.
asked for the head judge, who in fact is standing right next to the
table.
feature match table for the first time this weekend, which makes perfect sense. This is Kiwi Huang from the UK.
Yep.
And he's
currently living in the UK.
one of our 2 head judges, together with Martina Kölsch. And now he's explaining the effects of the card of Recreate. And Fabio Polito
puts it down with a,
the face indicates he understood what the card is doing, and that is a very, very bad message.
No, he's going to attempt to banish there to go and get a ritual spell card. There, physically, currently, actually isn't anything that he can do.
Yeah, he doesn't know that just yet.
He doesn't know it yet, but he has essentially lost the game.
That is what we are thinking. He now goes for searching for another ritual spell card. This is his one out, in his opinion, putting a big, big monster on the field. And then, once he's attempting to perform that ritual summon, Vanity's Emptiness is going to get flipped.
That's correct.
And since we're still missing Nekroz of Mystical Space Typhoon.
We are. And Nekroz of Dark Hole.
He doesn't have a way to get rid of either Vanity's Emptiness or the Clifford disc. There is the Nekroz cycle. And this activation will force the Vanity's Emptiness. Hey, our fortune teller skills hard at work here.
Embryonic. To
First,
the
some
graveyard.
more surging. So what is he looking for here?
He could be trying to claw Solace with a Djinn releaser of rituals, but that doesn't help him. He's just going to stop some. It has less than 4.
Is there something like the Decisive Armor, for example?
Yeah, the Decisive Armor would help because he would be able to just discard increasing the attack by 1,000. But that again only gets rid of the disc for 1 turn, and then it's just coming back.
Right.
Yep, there's the Decisive Armor.
Yeah.
He's going to try and make something extremely big.
So he wants to attack over the Qliphort disc. Not a bad idea, generally speaking. Searches for yet another ritual spell card. All of these searches happening in the very same turn.
Yep, he's going to look and try and make a big field.
There's the Nekroz Mirror. And Pitai Meyer is playing this by the book. He checks the opponent's graveyard, making it look like he's not exactly sure what's going to be next and how he's going to respond. Making his opponent feel more secure than he should feel. There is the cycle,
boom.
there is the Vanity's Emptiness, and, well, there isn't the handshake just yet. But it's a big step. It's just a small card being sent to the graveyard, but it's a very big step for Pitai Meyer on his way to the top 8.
Yep.
And Fabio Polito now left with the Djinn, Shurit, Senju, Nekroz of Decisive Armor, and the Nekroz Mirror.
And he's going to set.
Yeah, he's
the
forced to
Shurit.
just set a card and pass play. And now Pitai Meyer can take control of this game, even more so than he has already done in the past few turns. Very, very nice comeback. Didn't mind falling to 2,700 life points.
Helix has been normal summoned there so that it gains its 2,400 attack. And that was the Djinn releaser of rituals and attack.
Yes, and that is the first damage that Fabio Polito takes in our quarterfinals. It's not the quarterfinals. It's the
No.
top 16.
It
Quarterfinals is the next round.
Yes, it is.
Getting ahead of myself. Again.
And the judge again just explaining what Recreate does.
Yeah. Since it is a little bit confusing because the Helix is considered a level 4 monster.
When it's normal summoned.
Yeah.
Without tribute, of course. Not
Yes.
just in general.
Yeah. So that was 2,400 damage, wasn't it?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, is the monolith is something increasing the attack?
No, it's on 2,400.
Okay, so Fabio
There we
Polito,
go, it's just been corrected.
Yep, there we go. Fabio Polito on 5,600. Pitai Meyer trying to close the gap.
He's just drawn a card there.
That's a Nekroz Kaleidoscope, not what he is looking for.
Fabio just drew a card there. I believe it's been passed to Fabio's turn.
Yeah, his hand is completely useless. Well, it's a very good hand. Usually it can do a lot, but against Vanity's Emptiness and Recreate, it can't do anything really. What a lock that Pitai Meyer has been applied here. And he's just tightening the screws around Fabio Polito's neck really. And with yet another monster hitting play.
And he's tributed 2 for the stealth. You can't respond to this. Although Vanity's Emptiness goes, that goes to back to hand. And that is it.
Gigantic pendulum summon. Wow, look at all those shiny cards on the field.
Knocking his deck over in excitement.
In excitement, yes. And now he can attack definitely for game and way beyond game.
I believe that he was able to... Oh, there was Kaleidoscope set.
Yeah.
Attack.
That's it.
That is it.
4 cards moving forward.
Massive.
That is 1-0 for Pitai Meyer, putting Fabio Polito in a very bad spot in the top 16 of YCS Prague.
Now, let's see
take
what
a
we've
look.
got here.
Yeah. We got the Ice Hand and Fire Hand in the side deck of Fabio Polito, cards that have been added to the main deck plenty of times before against Clifford.
Now, we're seeing 3 Twisters going straight into the deck. He really does not like that Recreate. Vanity's Emptiness, again, isn't really helping him.
No, not exactly.
Effect Veiler, again, it would be a bad idea against Qliphort, because they would then just immediately gain their effects. Well, gain their full attack and
yes. So Pitai Meyer, on the other hand, we can expect his main deck to be already quite tuned against Nekroz.
Which it is, so already. I mean, he's got an
3 copies of Skill Drain, 3 copies of Vanity's Emptiness, 1 copy of Recreate. That's all against this particular deck. And 1 Imperial Custom in the side deck, something that he just added at the last minute.
He's also running 3 Maxi, which could see play. Mystical Space Typhoon, dropping some removal, because he knows exactly his opponent's going to try and start doing some stuff to try and stop him doing anything.
And that Imperial Custom could really be a difference maker, just like the Recreate was, because it prevents his other face-up continuous trap cards from being destroyed. So a Twister could actually turn into a -1, a wasted card for Fabio Polito.
Yeah. Now, also, he's running 3 the Monarch Storm 4th. Every single monster in his deck is a tribute monster. And Monarch Storm 4th does not target. It also does not destroy. So, Trishula and Gungnir completely useless against the Monarch Storm 4th.
Very comfortable position Pitai Meyer is sitting in. And the way he played that first game, I gotta give it to him. Staying calm, even though he was dropping life points, bleeding a little bit in the beginning.
No, he understood that he had what he needed to be able to win.
Yeah.
And he was letting his opponent use up his options to try and get rid of everything else, and then, just when it mattered, bringing it all out. Although Vanity's Emptiness, again, an extremely powerful card, won him the game there.
Alright, and Fabio Polito now needs to come back. Pitai Meyer, on the other hand, he looks extremely focused.
And Fabio, I don't know how to describe his body language there.
He's a little bit nonplussed, I would say.
Yeah.
And he lets Pitai go first, is what I understood just now. Which is very typical for the Nekroz players. They don't mind going second. And the hands are loading in. Pitai Meyer does have a sacrifice.
Okay, and down comes the Stealth. It's being equipped with a sacrifice, more than likely. And 2 cards being set there, which we will see in a moment.
Yeah, as this is his hand. Fiendish Chain is the key card here, I think, because it's the one card that saves him from a possible Trishula play on the first turn of Fabio Polito.
Now, there is also another set card there. We're just going to see that in a moment.
Yeah, the Monolith is the one card in his hand now.
This is a Torrential Tribute.
This is his field. Torrential Tribute, very interesting card we haven't seen all weekend.
It has been being played. It's just that nobody's actually had the ability to use it. Now, that is unfortunate to get a Fire Hand and a Ice Hand in your hand.
You don't want to have the hands in your hand.
There's so many hands in that. There's at least 1,002 hands in that hand.
Yes.
1,004 if you count the player's hands.
So Klosselas goes searching and probably gonna find a ritual spell card. And with an Senju of the 1,000 hands in hand, there's gonna be more searching in that opening move of Fabio Polito. He searches for Nekroz Mirror. You're still with me, Rob, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Klosselas has been gone to the graveyard to go and get a mirror.
Yes. Is he running 3 copies of Ice Hand, 2 copies of Fire Hand?
I don't know whether he's put all of those in there.
I would guess so. I mean,
now what we were saying last time who was playing against Qliphort is that those monsters aren't going to the graveyard, so he doesn't actually get Fire Hand's effect. So Ice Hand is great for him because he's going to be able to destroy something.
But the Fiendish Chain, yeah, it's going to stop it. Dead in its tracks. There is the Fiendish Chain.
And just remembering that it has to be destroyed, so you can't use, for example, Nekroz Mirror, or you can't use it as a tribute for a ritual summon and still get its effect.
Yeah. Finish chain, we've seen that yesterday, putting in a lot of work for a Satellarknight player when it got returned to the hand several times so he could activate it again, just like the Call of the Haunted, and gain so much advantage with those combos.
Yep. And that was definitely Satellarknights. They got what they needed, and it was Trevor.
Yeah, it's their best friend now.
I've always wondered how to really pronounce Trevor, whether you pronounce the 3 R's on the end.
All right, so this is Fabio Polito's hand now.
And there's a Trishula.
Well, what about the ice hand? Like, how does Pitai Meyer get rid of it? He wants to tribute one of his Qli monsters to return it to the hand, I think.
It looks
Eventually,
that way,
is that
but
what?
I don't know. I think we are still in Fabio's turn.
Yeah, we are.
Now, you can't see exactly what's happening on the field. Sorry about that. As we say, he's got a Trishula directly in his hand there. We're just waiting to see whether he plays the Trishula.
He's given up the normal summon, so we're not going to see a Senju of the 1,000 hands. The mirror, I don't think we're going to see the mirror either. So that might be the end of the turn for him.
Yep. He's got a Valkyrus also in hand. Just thinking there, if he attacks, then he's not in a great position. So he tributes the stealth, sending the sacrifice to the graveyard to go and get a scout. He now has a monolith in play. He's also got his Imperial Custom in his hand.
Yeah, the new card that we talked about in between rounds. This is it. And very important because he can also protect the Finish Chain, for example, with it.
Yep, and a very nice use of wording there, just to make sure that you don't have a lock on there. Because that would be ridiculous.
Yeah,
if you could have more than one.
2 Imperial Customs.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about a lockdown. All right. Pitai Meyer, however, doesn't have something like a Skill Drain or a Recreate to stop Fabio Polito's effects from resolving. So Senju of the 1,000 hands, for example, does get its effect and allows him to search for yet another card.
Now, I don't believe he actually has any cards left in his hand. I think he did actually set the Imperial Custom.
Yes.
Yes, as you can see there on the field.
So this is the field of Pitai Meyer together with the Imperial Custom. And sometimes what's a little bit confusing when you see that list here, you see the Clifford Scout and the Monolith as well, and you're wondering why is there only one monster on the field? Well, one of them is a Pendulum card, and it's in the Pendulum zone on the right-hand side, next to the monsters. So here we have Fabio Polito's hand, Nekroz of Brionek, being added to the hand and discarded right away again.
Now there's an overlay, possibly for Lava Lord Chain. There's Diamond Direwolf, Castel to return things to the deck, and he's going for the Castel.
The Sky Blaster Musketeer.
Beautiful artwork as well. Now, Monolith is going back to the deck. Sacrifice is now going to activate. Very interesting choice.
Yes, and that will allow Pitai Meyer to search his deck, get a search for Sacrifice. And now he is exposed to a possible Trishula play. With his Finish Chain being used and, well, in this situation, in fact, useless because it's already face up, doesn't negate anything anymore. And
there is a Torrential Tribute.
Yeah, Torrential Tribute, but he's still going to lose the Carrier in his hand. He's still going to lose a card from his... Yeah, there is the Trishula. No surprise there.
What are your targets?
Yeah, Torrential Tribute in response.
Yeah.
And now Pitai Meyer is going to lose everything. The last face-down card on his field, something from his graveyard, the Carrier in his hand. He's going to be left with nothing.
And his opponent's actually already normal summon this turn, but he will be able to use the effect of his mirror to banish it and a card in the graveyard to go and get himself another one.
Of course, the Scout was still on the field, so Scout got banished. So Pitai Meyer does have, in fact, one more card, and that's the Imperial Custom. But, well, normally...
It doesn't really help.
Yeah, you play it to protect something else and not to protect itself. So Pitai Meyer, well, factually without cards.
Yeah.
So the Torrential Tribute wiping the field after that Trishula resolved. Or, well, the other way around. And now Fabio Polito going through his graveyard, thinking about... I think the good discussion here was, did you already use Brian Egg in this turn?
Yeah. And he's got a shirt.
Yeah, he's not done yet. There's the Necroz cycle.
Down goes the shirt. Out comes the Valkyrus.
And yet another search, possibly for the next Brian Egg. Yes, so just to make sure that the following turns he still has some follow-up plays, can find something to do and apply even more pressure. But first it's going to be a big swing. And this time, not like the last game where Pitai Meyer was falling behind, but setting up his lock.
There really isn't much for Peter to do anymore. He is not in a good position. And there is very little that he's going to be able to draw into that takes him out of this position.
Yeah, what do you want to draw now? Is there anything really?
And I believe that's time on the round as well.
Oh, but that should mean that the game is 1-1.
Yep.
And then we're going to go to the timeout. Yes, here we are. So if we just had called the time on the round, that means we're now only going to play 4 turns.
Yes.
And both players are not allowed to side deck, which is very important. That means they cannot bring in cards that are very good in the timeout procedure. Well, and there's only so much that they have in their side deck. Spell Shattering Arrow is something that deals direct damage, but to both players. So not exactly what Pitai Meyer wants to introduce anyway in this matchup.
I believe that Spell Shattering Arrow is just your opponent, is it not? I think that it's Fairy Wind that's both. But that may be me misremembering, and it's both that actually deal damage to both players.
Right. So who's your favorite when you're only playing 4 turns with Qli against Nekroz?
Unfortunately, Nekroz.
Why is that?
Because Nekroz... I say unfortunately because I love Qliphort. So
okay.
it pains
just
me to
clarify,
see it lose.
yes.
So just to clarify. Valkyrus.
Valkyrus, and I think we can add to that list Scout and...
Decisive Armor, Gungnir.
Yeah.
Just there's a whole list of being able to protect yourself.
Clifford needs the Scout to really get its engine going, and that means it's going to pay some life points early on, whereas Nekroz doesn't need to pay any life points and can start from the very beginning, applying pressure and, well, unleashing all those key plays.
Yeah, it really depends who's going to get to go first here. If Polito gets to go first, he could get any particular lock off.
I mean, Pitai Meyer does have the choice who wants to go first, and normally you want to have more than 1 turn.
They are actually rolling to see who goes first.
There's a ruling on that, in fact. You have to roll. Such confuse. Much pressure.
Okay, I believe he's just thinking there.
Yeah, there's a... I think the judges have quickly stopped the game because one of the players has been asking a question, or...
No, he's literally thinking.
Oh, okay.
He wants to see... He's thinking who's going to get the... Because if it's 4 turns, only 1 player is going to get 1 attacking turn.
Yeah. At least during those regular 4 turns, and then there is, of course, a chance that they get more turns. Well, the advantage for the Qliphort player is when you go first, you can activate that Scout before your opponent can do something like a Mystical Space Typhoon. Again,
there's a Scout, there's a Summoner's Art.
Not necessarily what you want to do.
Solemn Warning.
This is exactly not the hand that you want to have when you don't want to pay any life points. And let's take a look at Fabio Polito's hand. He does not have a Valkyrus yet. However, Nekroz of Brionek can change that in a second.
I believe Brionik's probably going to be discarded to get Clauselus to get a ritual spell card so that he can play any of the other cards in his hand. Because he does have decisive armor and a gun year.
So you think he's going for a push?
I don't think he's going for a push, but if you sit a unicorn down that can also then be a 3,300 attack and can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, you're in a good position.
Generally speaking, that is correct. But when your opponent is already down on life points, don't you just want to go for 2 Valkyros and say, good game? All right, so the question is, is there anything really?
Has he paid for the scout?
Yes, he has. Here we can see he went down to 7,200.
There we go.
And I'm somewhat surprised that Pitai Meyer didn't search for Sacrifice. Wouldn't that be an excellent card here? Or is it too slow?
Well, he could have Monolith and Scout, special summoned Carrier in defense position, and then stuck a Sacrifice onto it, which would mean that it wouldn't be able to be destroyed by battle, and you're not really getting much else in terms of damage. Oh, actually, he's just doing his search now. Oh, accidentally just. Oh, he got the Recreate.
Ah, there we go. I could play this game. Good. So he's gonna add that to the back row. The interesting thing is, for me at least, and now it's obvious for Fabio Polito where the Recreate is.
He kind of misplayed that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that play. Well, the order of plays, really.
Yeah, you should always really set after you've got all of your effects off and you've done all of your attacks. And there's a preparation of rights. Of course, we're going to the third game here. Because this is the top cup, you cannot have a draw.
Yes. There is the Nekroz of Brionek. And now this is the big question. What is he going to search for? So your choice would be pushing, or at least summoning something. And it seems like Fabio Polito is agreeing with you. Going for the Kaleidoscope. And there it is.
Solemn warning. That is risky.
Yeah. But
especially seeing as there's now nothing on the field anyway, so he can just banish Kaleidoscope to just get another card there, or even Unicorn.
Yeah, so Pitai Meyer now down to 5,200 life points. With only one more turn remaining for him. And that's very, very intense situation here.
Just asking a question about Kaleidoscope being banished there.
What could be the question here?
I'm not too sure.
It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Yeah, it is quite straightforward. You banish it and another Nekroz card in your graveyard to go and fetch another spell card. I don't know whether he's asking whether it has to be the same one or if you can get the same one.
So Fabio Polito, does he have a chance to get his hands on Nekroz of Valkyros now with a preparation of rights?
He could do. At the moment.
It's also very interesting that he didn't first activate. Do you first activate the preparation of rights, or do you first banish from the graveyard?
I think banishing from the graveyard is usually your best option, because then you have the preparation of rights ready. because then you can play another one and then play the Preparation of Rites. It's thinning your deck down and giving you other options.
Okay, so there we have the Nekroz Mirror now. He discards the Nekroz of Unicorn.
Bring Brionac back to hand. Brionac, if I remember, actually does have quite a high attack. Yeah, it's 2300, the same as Unicorn.
Yeah. And most of the time, more than you need. All right. There is the Preparation of Rites. He gets to add more cards to his hand. Gets to recycle his card, his ritual spell card from the graveyard. And there is the Nekroz Mirror.
Okay, out comes the Unicorn, which he discarded, so he would be able to use the Mirror from the graveyard. Still taking advantage of Unicorn's first effect. Side blocker.
That is the normal summon. And he could now just name Recreate if...
Yes, he could.
Well, even if he... Well, he pays 800, and now the question is, does Pitai Meyer respond? He does.
Yeah.
So the effect is negated.
And again, just a quick read.
The question is, did Fabio Polito pay first, or did Pitai Meyer preemptively flip that Recreate? I would be surprised if he did.
Sorry, what's he paying Qliphort for there?
For the side... Oh, you don't...
You don't have to pay anything.
I'm mixing it up with a different card here.
Yeah. Now, looking at it, there goes the carrier.
By the way, keep in mind that Pitai's life points are actually 5,200 after that solemn warning.
Yeah, they've not taken that into account.
So he is a little bit more behind than that this is telling us. And now he's taking another big hit, or two big hits in fact, with both the Nekroz of Unicorn and the Psy blocker.
And then an overlay is happening there. Now I do believe that Recreate just says level. But again, it would be rank 4 anyway.
Yeah. So in any case, the monster that Fabio Polito is going to special summon here from his extra deck is not going to be affected by Recreate.
And it's Castel. Because just to return Scout back to deck. And Recreate disappears because it needs a Qli card out on the field.
Yeah, in that regard, it's a little bit like, well, a little bit like Vanity's Emptiness. Not exactly, of course. And that is a very good 2-for-1 for Fabio Polito, who now has a monster sitting in defense position. Many cards in hand, 3 in fact. Whereas Pitai Meyer is left with no ways to search.
A Qliphort monolith. Just summoner. Well, he does have a set summoners up. And a skill drain, which unfortunately doesn't help him either.
Also means he has to pay 1,000 life points, and that's exactly what you do not want to do. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, between the graveyards, there is, or between the graveyard and the field spell zone of Pitai Meyer, there is a die indicating that it's the 3rd out of 4 extra turns. So this would be the last turn for Pitai Meyer in which he has to deal some damage.
Definitely. Now, he does have the ability to send that Castel back to the deck. As his summoners will get him a Scout and Monolith in the zones. Scout getting any card, basically. Then Pendulum summoning, tributing the carrier. But no, he's
all of this is not enough.
No.
So, really nothing that Pitai Meyer could do. The timeout definitely not featuring the Qli archetype, where you want to be able to, well, do some damage early on and not grind out the game, which is what, well, at least have some setup first, which also paying life points at the same time is not what you want to do in a Qli deck.